Video 3 in the AdLizard SDK instructional series is starting to cut some code. This is where the fun starts, and we're going to see here an emulation of some navigation, or an introduction to the objects, which will allow us to emulate some navigation in AdLizard for a start. So let's start with adding a new ASP to the project I had created, or had already created in the last lesson. Once I've opened that, I just want to add in here. I want to add a new item. I'm going to choose web form, and I'm going to name it SDK tutorial .aspx. I'm going to choose to place the code behind, and I'm going to select Visual Basic as my code. AdLizard will work with either of the ASP.NET languages available in the Visual Web Developer. I'm choosing to use Visual Basic because I'm about 100 years old. And sometimes I feel it when I see these new guys coming through. So I've started a new SDK tutorial ASP, and the first thing I'll do is I'll get my onload event to happen so that we can get going quickly. So I'll double click here, and that's going to take me to the code behind where I find the page load event. I'm going to replace the page load event with something I copied just before I started the video, and then I'll explain it. So it's not a very difficult copy, it's just I wanted to explain what it is that you must do for very basic AdLizard programming. You must do these things every time. So a few lines here that I'll explain from the top. The first is on line 5. I just normally dim a string because we're going to do some response writes later on, and those response writes I like to put them on different lines, so I just, rather than break into quotation marks mid-string, I just save this and I'll write this as a string after my response write, so I get some line breaks happening. This here is an introduction to how we instantiate an AdLizard object in .NET. We just dim it as a new object and then reference the AdLizard object library. Now, since I referenced the object library in my project, if I just started to type this, if I wanted to, if I did this from scratch, I could dim the slot as a new, and then as soon as I start on my ADL object lib, there it is, I can get a dot, and it's going to show me all of the classes that I might instantiate here. I happen to have instantiated the slot here. So that's how to instantiate them. That's why it's great to have AdLizard installed locally, because the IntelliSense is going to teach you as much about AdLizard's SDK as the documentation will, and it's important that you instantiate them properly. So I've got 3 classes open here. I'll explain quickly what they do. The slot is like a session. It handles user logging and all of the user information as the session is alive, the user session. The doc is an ad or a template in AdLizard, and a user, of course, is a user that's registered within the AdLizard database. I have an onload method. I have an onload sub here, which uses the slot object to first of all connect. We pulling from the config file the AdLizard connection string. That will then, in the next line, we've set this this property here, and in the next line I'm using that to connect to the database. This is a Boolean function which will return true if it gets a connection, which if it doesn't, I'm writing to the screen, and if it does get a good connection, I'm sharing that with my other objects. You must do that every time. You must connect the slot, and you must share that with various objects so that it can extract data from the database. Now we've set it up, we're going to go a bit further in the next video.